Yo, what's up? My name's Mochi and welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna go over color theory. Yes, those dreaded colors that everybody seems to be wondering how to use. At least some people out there. If you don't know what color theory is understanding how colors work together and affect our emotions. We're going to be going over some different types of relationships and then general tips that you can use in your art, because I know not everybody can get into the technical things of color theory, but I'm just gonna break it down for you. I feel like everyone at this point should know what the color wheel is, but I'm just gonna go over it again. You should have learned this in first grade. There's primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. Primary is blue, yellow, and red, secondary is green, orange, and purple, and tertiary is everything in between, like a reddish orange. These are some of the more simple categories. I'm pretty sure you don't need to know any of these. I mean, if you can name the color on screen, you're good to go. Some of the color schemes you'll learn about is monochromatic, analogous, complementary, triad, split comp, and then tetradic. Monochromatic is using only one color, strictly one color, for your entire piece. So that means when you use red, you're using a lighter version of red, or pink. And when you need to shade a darker color, you're not using any other color but red itself. When doing analogous colors, you can use one side of the color wheel. That can mean magenta, red, and orange. Complementary means you're using colors that are opposite from each other, such as blue and yellow, or blue and orange, whatever. Triad means you're using colors that are, split into thirds. Split complementary means you're using opposite sides of the spectrum, but it's kind of blurry. Here's an image on screen. And then tetradic is just slapping a rectangle in the middle and using whatever colors are hit by the rectangle. By far, the most common types of color relationships are analogous and complementary. I will also show you triad colors, but we're going to see some examples first. This picture right here is a prime example of complementary colors. The image mainly uses a stark and bright orange color contrasted by blue. And if you're still wondering why we use these colors, just think about how opposites attract. It's obviously a well-colored image, it's pleasing to the eye, and overall, a really good piece of art. Now this piece, named Flowers by Van Gogh, incorporates analogous colors. From green all the way to certain shades of maybe orange or yellow, this is a pretty good example. And this is a triadic color piece. It incorporates 3 different colors, black isn't included, and using these different types of color schemes can have your art look professional and well thought out. So now that we've seen different types of art examples, we're going to make our own artworks. I do suggest you maybe bring out a canvas or something because you're gonna draw with me. First things first, you get your lighting reference and you also get your color scheme. For this, I picked a purple and a yellow type color palette. For some reason, I thought it was cool to add green, even though green and purple aren't complementary colors. I think I got them mixed up. But anyways, I had my photo reference, my color palette, and some line art that I just slapped on there from a week ago and began to color. There also won't be too much commentary on the lighting part of this canvas because I'm more focused on colors rather than lighting. This is a color video, not a lighting video. However, next video might be about lighting. Now for some reason, like I said, I began to color in green. Don't know why I did that, but I will be fixing that later in the speed paint. And I also added a little bit of orange in there. You might be asking, why the heck would you add orange even though this is supposed to be a complementary color palette? Well, it's mainly because I ran into some problems while trying to smudge the green and the purple together. Probably because they're not supposed to be colored together. But anyways, when I smudge things together, I like it to be very vibrant. And if it's not vibrant, then I will add vibrant colors as a middleman. And as you can see, the rest of the speed paint is just me blending out stuff, adding darker shadows, a little bit of bounce light. Here's me fixing up a lot of the colors that I've been doing because before you could see a bunch of teal and orange, but that's not so good. So I did add a few gradient maps onto it. If you want your coloring to look more vibrant quickly, then you can add gradient maps or changing the curves of an image. And so when all is said and done, this is the final result. I'd say the feedback was pretty good on this art piece. Another banger made by me. And now we're moving on to analogous colors. I took the colors red and a few orange hues together, and with a lighting reference, I began to work on my second example. I was really glad because there wasn't too much work to be done on this thing. There was mainly two different types of colors to be incorporated, just a darker shade of orange and a lighter shade, maybe some red during the line art. But overall, I had very little trouble incorporating the colors. As you can see here, I filled in the line art with red and began to render into the skin. After fixing up some features and playing with the colors a little bit, this is the final result. And now we're moving on to our final example, triad colors. For this piece, I decided to just use the primary colors. Pro tip, if you start to question yourself early on into your art, just remember that it's a work in progress and you cannot fix it as of now. More of this speed paint is just focusing on the lighting. Again, kind of troublesome when I'm not commenting too much on that. But it was kind of like especially difficult to use an incredibly saturated blue and red due to how these colors are kind of the same. Like if you grayscaled it, I'm pretty sure they would look the same color. But I shrugged it off and continued anyway. I'm pretty sure this piece would look great in the end. Now just using the blue and the red makes it look like a great piece already, but I do have to add in the yellow to make it a triad color scheme. I maybe had a little trouble if I remember, but overall I think I did great. There wasn't really too much light to add. Maybe on the reference it added more light towards the nose, around the cheek area, the bottom lip, a little bit of the chin, and on the forehead. After fixing up another piece of lighting on the nose, playing around with the colors, this is the final result in a side-by-side piece with another type of filter on it. A really good coloring practice if I do say so myself. Now, after practicing for so much, I'm going to push those artworks away, and now we're going to move on to any general tips. Those were just an overview of all the color schemes that you can incorporate in your art. You might have heard of the classic never shade with black or a multiplied layer of purple, which is true in a way. One of the common reasons why you shouldn't shade with black is because it makes your colors and lights a lot more dull. And in quotes, it just sucks the life right out of your paintings. It's a very heavy and dominant color, so in some certain wavelengths of light, black is pretty much an absence. Black is just kind of built different, and that's why more often than not you don't include it in your artwork. Now, I can only think of a few, very few art styles where incorporating black in your artwork as a shading color is okay, maybe in some retro comics, but also in maybe certain pixel styles. So you can use black, but only on certain art styles. Otherwise, if you do this, it's not going to look as appealing as other colors. Instead, if you want to have a stylized way of shading, incorporate the values, saturations, but also hues. Values are the lightness and darkness of a color. It adds dimension to a piece. Adding different types of values into your art helps your viewers determine which things are different from others. If all of your shading colors looked the same as maybe the singular base color, then nobody would be able to tell which things are different. Saturations just mean the level of intensity in a color. Using mute colors in your artwork can be very important in order to support and enhance other brighter colors. Instead of just making your color dark and possibly more saturated, you need to shift hues as well to make it more stylized, to make the colors pop out, and to make it look more appealing. At some point, you're going to have to use other colors because, to say, the bottom picture is a lot more appealing than the top. As I said, this is just a highly stylized guide. So many people are using stylized shading in their art to make it look more appealing. There are some art styles where it's just your good old-fashioned black doing its job, but if you want more stylized painting, or if you have a certain goal, you're most likely going to learn color theory, and you're going to incorporate it in wherever you're going. So because of this new information, let's test out some shading theory. I like to call this thing the L-shaped hue shift because of how you're kind of moving in an L shape and you're shifting hues. Now, out of the 3 options that are on screen, which one will look the most appealing and will really make my OC look bedazzled? Personally, I'd say the first one. It's not so much of something that I can put into words, but it just appeals to me more, which is why I often incorporate this type of shading in all of my art. I have recently begun to kind of put a fine line between the base color and the shading color as a way to blend between the two evenly, as I mentioned earlier. Moving on to more saturated colors, as a very good reminder, you probably shouldn't use overly saturated colors in your art unless it specifically calls for that or you know how to. Let's take an example I did a while back. This artwork I did here for an art challenge is incredibly saturated. Most of the colors are to the max saturation they can possibly be. However, they're not the brightest. For some, this artwork might be a little bit of an eye strain, and I apologize for that, but I don't choose colors that are at the very tippy top of the color square or whatever it is. Yes, a lot of these colors are fully saturated, they're very bright. However, I carefully harmonize them, maybe put on some gradients or filters, and purposefully picked out colors that I knew would pair good with each other. Now, I'm just going to clarify, this is a human, they have human skin tones. Mo isn't some type of weird creature, so we obviously know that green isn't their skin color, it's supposed to be this type of tan. However, it can be interpreted as the light. Red is used as a shading color, which kind of makes sense. Most of the scene is this really warm, bright, kind of sunny color, pierced by the neon green skin that I've put here. And there is a difference between picking out eye strain colors and just picking up anything and mashing it all together like some type of Frankenstein. Now, I literally cannot find any examples of beginner artists oversaturating all their colors because most of them aren't posted online. The only example that I can easily find is Muhammad's thumbnail showcasing a very beginner-esque like artwork. Now, I did stumble upon a guide by an artist who purposefully mismatched their colors in order to showcase the difference between stylized coloring, which seems to be a lot more appealing than whatever this is. A lot of the colors from the right example have been shifted into more orange hues, and there's a lot more color diversity. One of the main tricks that a lot of people do in order to get this type of stylized coloring is to add colors on top of other colors. This can be seen even in traditional artists. Those who use alcoholic markers or any markers in general often layer them on top of each other in order to get a certain vibe, feeling, or tone or tint to it. Same thing can be applied to your drawing by shifting the entire tone or adding individual blending layers to each color. By doing everything I've said previously, you can not only make your art more engaging, but also give off a certain vibe that you want the viewer to take away. Moving on from saturation, let's talk about eyeballs. Along with the don't shade with black rule, I think that everybody should know that you don't add pure white to the sclera of an eyeball or to the teeth. It can make your art kind of look really uncanny and pronounce certain details that people don't really want to pronounce. If you want a person to maybe focus more on the general face rather than just the eyes, don't add white. They're not in an analog horror, they're a person. Now, if you're adding white purposefully to add contrast to the image, then yeah, go ahead. But other than that, always use some type of palish white, maybe beige warm tone for the eyes or the teeth, and sometimes you can use cool colors to depict white things as well. For now, I feel as if I've glazed over a lot of subjects in color theory or coloring tips that I find useful. I might have missed some things, but this is just a general lesson. There are so many other amazing artists and YouTube videos out there that I think watching them could help you get a good perspective of how to grasp color theory and coloring in general. As a pretty small content creator with really big dreams, I hope to grow my community. You can help me by joining my Discord server linked below and subscribing. Joining my Discord server will allow you to participate in future events such as me redesigning and drawing your OCs, fixing your art, personalized help, and other fun events I hope to host in the future. Until then, have fun practicing color theory and work hard on your goals.
In modern mathematics is the Banach force law.